You please welcome our assistant coach, who has done everything all week and is now going to have a go at presenting. It's Chrissy!
Hello everyone, thank you for the applause. So today we are incredibly lucky to be joined by one of our most exciting and respectable producers in the industry, Eileen Davidson. She is a theatre producer with an impressive body of work across Broadway and the West End. And she is the co-founder of Stage Traffic and also the founder of Eileen Davidson's Productions, with recent credits including Olivier Awards, winning productions like The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Macbeth, A Doll's House, and they're just to name a few. So please help me in joining Eileen Davidson, people. Hello, Eileen. Thank you so much for taking the time in your rare window of your schedule to talk to us today. I really appreciate it. How are you doing today?
Really well, thank you.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure to join you all. I'm actually in New York, and thanks to modern technology, it's great to be able to zoom in and talk to everybody.
No, it's amazing. The fact that you're across the Atlantic right now and we're seeing you in Interdrama in Cranley Arts Centre is just amazing, and we have the tech crew to thank for that. One question to begin with for you. As a female producer who's founded your own production company, what was your journey into production? Did you always know that this was the path you'd kind of gave for your career?
No, not at all. I actually didn't even know what a theatre producer did until I was probably about 30. So I actually started off as an actress myself. I went to Guildford School of Acting many, many years ago and worked as a theatre actress, did a little bit of TV and film. And it wasn't until after I had my kids, I thought I really want to work in theatre again. I became aware of what a producer does. So I started off as an assistant producer and pretty much learnt on the job.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's amazing. It's interesting to say that you chose to go back into theatre after having children. Would you say that in a world of theatre where production is primarily male-dominated, especially at commercial level, would you find that there's been any challenges in the industry as a woman coming back into it after having children?
Yes, I mean, it's a fairly unforgiving job. When you are working all hours. There's only 4% of theatre producers in the UK who are actually females. We're a small group, but we're a mighty group, and there's a lot of support within that for each other, a lot of solidarity. But yes, it's an industry that's not really set up for women with kids. And I was very lucky, I am very lucky to have a husband who really pulled his weight. And, when you've got a show on, you might be, at the theatre from midday to midnight. So those are challenges, I think, if you have a family.
Yeah, well, thank you. As you have your own production company, when you're choosing new stories to start taking and kind of creating that storytelling bridge of how they're told and who tells them, what voices and themes are you passionate about performing and putting them onto the stage, whether it be Broadway or West End? What draws you to those stories?
I think for me, you can have a very specific story, but I want it to have resonance with as wide an audience as possible. So something may be about a specific event somewhere, but you need it to have universal appeal. You need the story to people to sit there and say, I can relate to this has got some meaning or impact. I like news stories. I think there's a lot of revivals done. But for me, I would say about 75% of my work is producing new plays, new musicals, or a real sort of radical reinterpretation of an original. And of course, I like stories written by women.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And also, considering, again, you work both on Broadway and the West End, there's a little bit of ocean in between there, only a tiny. So what would you say is one of the big differences between the West End and Broadway, if any, whether it be creative or commercial, if you found, or even just audience participation in, or reviews when you come back, or if there's a difference between the British audience and the American?
Okay, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. British audiences are much more discerning. I think there are shows that work on Broadway that London audiences wouldn't like, wouldn't appreciate, wouldn't go and see. I would say the performance standards in acting are probably higher in the UK because we have a tradition of drama school training, and it's also really expensive to work on Broadway. It's 4 times the cost to produce the same show in New York as it is in London.
What's the reason for that, if you don't mind me asking?
No, not at all. You have very strong unions here, so you have a lot more people employed
Yeah.
on a production. So you may have 20 people in the UK and you need 80 there. It's also the rental costs of the theatre are way higher, and also the production costs themselves, what we call hard production costs, building a set, buying lumber. So all of those costs are significantly more on Broadway, particularly since COVID, and people are on higher rates as well.
Oh, that's
You have to pay
interesting.
more. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Well, that's interesting that the rates for the actors in America are more than the rates in the UK.
they are. Yeah.
Speaking of which, many people would kind of say that Broadway has a stronger musical pull to the West End. I was thinking if you agree on that or why that might be, whether there's more of kind of people who like drama in America, it might be generalized to musical theatre, whereas I feel like maybe in the UK it might be a bit more, you like drama, it could be naturalism, it could be avant-garde. You know, what would
Absolutely.
you think about that?
I would say definitely, you know, the American musical is a form and it was sort of devised in America, and a lot of the big musicals came from there. So I think they do have a definite lean towards there. And if you look at the proportion of plays versus musicals, there's always more musicals on in Broadway than the West End, proportionally to the theatres. And I think we are more experimental. We're more open to different styles of theatre, and I think you can experiment a lot more in the West End, and people are receptive to that.
That's nice. Thank you so much. We're now going to go over to some students who are going to ask you some questions. I'm going to take you over to Lily here.
Eileen, if you if you met someone who would want to be a producer when they're older, what advice would you have for them?
Great question, Lily. I think just to be around theatre as much as possible and to try and understand all the different elements, because you're a little bit like a general contractor. You sort of hire everybody, negotiate contracts, and are responsible for sort of curating and steering the production. So I think to be in theatre and try different roles, you know, stage management, know a little bit about lighting, about sound. And it's a real merge, I think, of the business and the show. So again, to sort of be, you know, a bit financially literate, understand how budgets work, how much things cost. So, you know, as much immersion in the world of theatre as possible.
Thank you. Now we're going to go over to Harvey. Thank you. That's really interesting. Harvey, have you got a question for Eileen today?
Hello, Eileen. What's the most challenging part about your job, which you didn't anticipate when you went into it?
Okay, that's another great question. I think just before a show opens, I think, you know, you have this kind of relatively quiet 2 or 3 months of pre-production where you're hiring people, doing the contracts, doing the PR, the publicity and the marketing, and then like probably the 3 days before you open can be crazy, because that's when you discover there are maybe problems with the show technically, the actors maybe aren't where they need to be, you've got to sell tickets, there's pressure, and also, you know, you've got press night coming. So I think it's also managing a lot of people who can get very worried, a bit hysterical, and feelings are running high. So I think for me, it's sort of ensuring everybody is okay and dealing with a very diverse and different group of people all doing different jobs on the show. And that is when it's 24/7. So just before a show opens, I think that's the most intense time.
That's really interesting that you do everything basically all in one kind of job role. That's amazing. Right, now we're going to go over to River here. She's going to ask you a question.
So Eileen, what is your favourite part of producing?
Okay, I think for me, sort of the early days when you're putting together, somebody comes to you with an idea or a new script, and you're sitting there thinking, who are the creatives that would work well in this? You know, you're maybe looking for a director, you're looking for set, you're thinking about the actors, and the very early days of brainstorming with the writer and director about what's the vision for this, what's it going to look like, what are we envisaging for soundscape, are we doing this? Is this a naturalistic play? Is this surrealism, expressionism? How are we going to present these ideas? So I love that part, and I also like the marketing side. So that's when we perhaps choose the artwork. We're thinking, how do we sell this to our audience? You know, and nowadays, obviously, it's not just a sort of outdoor ad campaign. You're doing social and digital marketing, organic social. So you're sitting there and thinking, how do we get this message about this play to as many people as possible? So that can be challenging, and I like that challenging aspect.
Thank you. Lucinda?
What would your day-to-day schedule be like as a producer?
Okay, well, this is a job where there is really no set day. So for people who want variety in their life and the unexpected, it's a perfect career. So for me at the moment, because I'm in the States, I'm working on a show, 2 shows opening in September. So I'm up really early to get on Zoom calls with the UK. So I've been at my desk since 6 a.m. US time. So I've done all of the UK stuff, which is kind of grinding to a bit of a halt. And then in the States, I'm going to go to a rehearsal room now and have a look at the progress they've been making. In the evenings, if I've got a show, I don't go every night, but I'll go sort of once, twice a week to check in. And then in the evenings, I like to see other people's work because you've got to know what's out there and what other people are doing. So you can have a really full-on day like that. Other days, I can just sit in front of the screen. So there's a real variety. And I guess you're looking after the business aspect as well, raising money for a show and letting people know how the show's going. You have to report back to people who've invested in the show. So it's really, really varied.
Thank you so much, Eileen. I've got 2 more questions for you. Personally, I really want to know how you made your break into the producing world. What was there a connection that was made, or how did you seek out and get that kind of first experience in the producing world that you were like, yes, I'm going to pursue this?
So for me, I went in as a production assistant, so that I was working at a theatre in the States, and I was literally learning on the job. So for me, I think that's really important. If you're going in as a producer, you don't start off as a producer. So you have various different routes into production, and nearly everybody would go and work for a theatre company or work at a specific theatre. So you understand the culture and what goes on and what the job entails. And then I decided to set up on my own, which was very scary. And I didn't want to do anything huge because, often you can fail, and I didn't want to. And also it's hard to raise money in the beginning because people don't know whether you can be successful and get them back their money, which is an important part of the job, and recoup the show. So I started off with a very small play at the Park Theatre in London, which is a 200-seater theatre. And I did that, and that got really good reviews, and then that kind of made it a little easier for me to do my next show. But I started off small, and I would say to anybody as a producer, that's kind of what you want to do. The West End is a scary beast at first, so get your experience in maybe regional theatre or off West End theatre.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. And then finally, one last question. Are there any shifts or changes you'd want to see in the theatre industry, whether that be representation, accessibility, what kind of work being made would you like to see that shift in?
I think theatre does a pretty good job in terms of representing different people, attracting different people into the industry. There's been a lot of effort made in terms of diversity and accessibility, and I think we do a good job of that. I think often there's still a lot of work written by men. So I think for me as a woman, I'd like to see more female playwrights work, and I guess also female representation across all the other sound, lighting, and to have more women working in those roles. And for me, I always make sure I'm producing a show in the autumn called Coven, which is about witchcraft and a real life witch event that happened in the UK. And so I have a female sound designer, I have a female lighting designer, and I think the female producers out there really try. And it's not just for playwrights, but it's across all the other jobs as well, just to make sure people know about these jobs, know that they're viable, careers, and sort of get the word out about because a lot of people don't know what these jobs are or what they entail or what the training is. So just raising awareness around that.
That's amazing. That's what I love to hear. Women supporting women. Thank you so much, Eileen, for talking with us today. We can't even believe how lucky we are that all of us as Interdrama students, even me having this experience working here, that we get to have this experience speaking with you. We're so over the moon. Thank you, students, for your questions as well. Thank you, Eileen. You've been amazing. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to talk to you all, and brilliant questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This week we have had a great experience, and seeing that this is the last episode of the 4:30 show, here is a wrap-up of this year's Summer Academy.